Hello everyone, welcome to Info Center Computer Institute. In today's session, we are going to see what are nested for loops. One loop inside another loop is called nested loop. Any loop which you have seen so far can be nested. Nesting is done to perform various tasks. Before nesting a loop, you have to see the syntax of for loop. Now let's dive into that. So in for loop, you will have a initialization part, a condition part, followed by the body of the loop will be executed, and then the updation part. Right? So first initialization, condition, body of the loop, and then the updation part. So now you can notice here there is an outer loop here and an inner loop here. So this is the difference. So you can see that one loop is nested inside another loop. This loop, the inner loop, is nested inside the outer loop, right? So this is called nested for loop. So how does this execute is, first it will initialize a variable, then the condition will be tested. If the condition is true, then it will enter inside the inner loop. If the condition is false, then it will go outside the loop and it will execute the statement that is after the loops. Okay, and if after entering the inside loop, the inner loop, okay, again initialization will happen, then the condition will be tested. If the condition is true, then inner loop will be executed. If the condition is false, then it will check for any other statements, okay, outer loop, if whether outer loop have any other statements. If it has, then it will execute that, else it will go to the updation part of the outer for loop. Am I clear? So if it is true, inner part will be executed, else it will check for the outer loop statement. If it is there, it will execute that, else it will go to the outer part for the updation part. Right? So now let's dive into the flow chart part. So first initialization will happen and then the first condition will be tested. If the condition is true, then the second inner loop's condition will be tested. If its condition is also true, then the statement block inside the inner loop will be executed, followed by the updation of the inner loop. Again the condition after the updation part, that is increment or decrement, again the inner loop condition will be tested. So you can notice here that this loop continues, right? This loop continues until the condition, inner loop condition gets false. Once the inner loop condition gets false, then it comes out and it goes to the outer loop's condition. Right? So this loop continues. After this, if only condition 2, that is inner loop's condition, becomes false, it will come outer. If the outer loop condition gets false, then it will come out of the entire loop and it will go to the end of the statement. So if the condition is true, okay, if the condition becomes false of a second inner loop, then it will come to outer of the loop and it will check whether there is any statement in the outer loop. If so, it will get executed, else it will go to the updation part of the outer loop. Now let's see some live examples. So before nesting a loop, following points must be kept in your mind. First thing is, inner loop should be completely inside the outer loop. You can notice here, this is the inner loop and this is the outer loop. So here it is completely inside the outer loop. Two loops should not cross each other. Right? You should not give the first outer loop statement inside the inner loop, or you should not close the braces here, or you should not initialize something here which is for outer loop. Nothing should be done. Running variables for the inner loop and the outer loop must be different. If they are same, then they will lead to logical error. Running variables are nothing but the control variable, that is the initialization part. Okay, you should not keep the first outer loops variable as A and also inner loops also A. Then it will lead to logical error because the compiler will get confused. So you must use two different variables for two different loops. Right? So the next point is, inner loop should be closed first, then only the outer loop must be closed. So you can notice here the inner loop, this is the inner for loop, right? Here starts the inner for loop and this is the outer for loop. So you can notice here the inner for loop is closed first and then only this is outer for loop's parenthesis, right? This parenthesis is closed, right? So these are the points. The first thing is, inner loop should be completely inside the outer loop. Two loops should not cross each other. running variables must be different for both the loops, and then inner loop should be closed first, then only the outer loop must be closed. Now let's see a simple example program. So now let's see a simple example program. Here a is declared as 0, and the first part, okay, first two variables are declared. Now we are initializing the variable value for a inside the first for loop. Then a is less than or equal to 2 is checked. Then the inner for loop, it is true, right? 0 is less than or equal to 2, so it is true, so it comes inside the inner for loop. And then inner for loop's initialization part is carried out. B is equal to 0. And then is b less than or equal to 2 is checked. Yes, it is. So now the inner statement will be printed. So what is given here? It is print statement of value b. So what is the value of b here? It is 0. So 0 will be printed in the output screen. Again, it goes to the updation part of the inner for loop. That is 0 plus 1 will become 1. So b plus plus is nothing but incrementation operator. Incrementation operator will increment the value of the variable that is prefixed before this plus plus operator plus 1. That is, value of b will be added plus 1. That is 0 plus 1 will be carried out. So now the value of b is 1. So is 1 less than or equal to 2? Is it true? Yes, it is. So now again the print, it will print statement, right? It will print the value of variable b. So now here it is incremented. So the value of b is 1 here. So 1 will be printed in the output screen. So 0 followed by 1. And again 2. Then it will get incremented. Is 2 less than or equal to 2 will be checked. It is true. Then 2 will be printed. Again it will be incremented. 3 will be checked. Now the condition gets false. You must note this. It gets false. So it comes to the outer part of the outer for loop. So this is, here the for loop gets closed, gets terminated, right? After that the control flows to the outer part of the for loop. Now here is a print statement. So already we have printed 0, 1, 2 in the screen. Now it will come to a new line, and again it will go to the updation part. Now a's value will be incremented to 1. So is 1 less than or equal to 2 true? Yes, it is. Now it goes into the nested for loop again. So the same process continues, and again 0, 1, 2 will be printed, right? So again new line, then again it will become 2. Now the condition will be true. So again 2, 0, 1, 2 will be printed, and then it will come to a new line, and then it will check. Now it will become 3 is less than or equal to 2. The condition becomes false. It will come to the return statement. Is everything clear? So now when you notice this, okay, here we are using this for loop, right? This for loop for printing the values in the output screen, whereas we are using this for loop to print number of times, that is 3 times. Now we can just make a thing so simple. So you have to print 3 times the same values. For that you can use this kind of variable, this kind of loop. Now let's test this. Yeah, we got the same output that we expected. 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2 and 0, 1, 2 is printed thrice. So that's all about this program. Now let's move on to the next program, that is printing matrix. So now let's try printing this. Yeah, now if you noticed here, we have initialized I and j, followed which we have used a 2D array. Usually, while accessing and printing a 2D array, we use nested for loop. Okay, because nested, this is the row and this is the column, right? So row will be accessed by one for loop, and the column will be accessed by another for loop, and it will be incremented in the order that we require it to be. Okay, so this is how 2D matrix will be printed. So now how will this 2D matrix be stored in the memory, right? right? So we all know that array index always starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2. So it is given as 3, which is row is printed here. So 0, 1, 2, which is the i's value, and this is j's value, 0, 1, 2, and this is how this value will be represented in the memory. So now let's come into the output screen. So in the output screen, it will print given matrices. Here's a print statement. So it will print given, G will be in capital. So given matrix is. So this will be printed in the output screen. After this, there are two for loops. So this is the outer loop and this is the inner loop. So now let's try working out this. So I is equal to 0, I is less than 3, I plus plus, then inner loops initialization, condition, updation, right? So initially it will get into the loop, the control will initialize a variable with I is equal to 0, then it will test the condition is 0 less than 3. Is it true? Yes, it is. So after that, the control will flow onto the inner loop. So after this, it will come into the body, right? So it will come inside. So you can see that the outer loop starts here and ends after the inner for loop. Okay, there is also a statement here. So usually inside for loop, okay, inside for loop, if you have multiple statements, so for and multiple statements, you have to use parentheses. Okay, you have to use curly braces. If there are not multiple statements, so if you are specifying only one statement inside for loop, then you don't have to use parentheses, right? So now let's move into the thing. So it gets inside. Now j will be declared. 0 is less than 3. The condition will be tested. It is true, and 0 will be incremented by 1. So now j's value is 1. So now it gets inside the printing statement, that is the output statement. So now i's value will be 0. Am I right? And j's value will be 0. Okay. So you have to remember that after this, body of the loop will be executed. Then only the incrementation will happen. You should not directly go into the incrementation. So this is manual execution. Always try manually executing the program before you use the compiler, because manually executing makes you clear in everything. Okay, everything. So always try manual execution. Okay, so now after this, it will come inside and it will print I matrix of 0, I of j. So what is the value of I? It is 0. What is the value of j? It is 0. It is 0 here. After that, when it will go to the increment, it will become 1. Okay, so 0 comma 0. So what is the value of 0 comma 0? It is 1. So 1 will be printed in the output screen. Now what happens? It again goes to the updation part of the inner for loop. Remember, it will complete this only when j is less than 3 condition becomes false. It will go to the outer loop. Okay, so now j plus plus will be carried out. So what is j plus plus? It will become 1 now. So now it will check for the condition again is 1 less than or equal to 3. So it is true. So now 1 is less, again it gets into the body of the loop. So now j's value is incremented to 1. So 0 comma 1. What is 0 comma 1? It is 2. So 2 will be printed. Now again j will get updated. So 1 plus 1, it will become 2. So 2 less than 3, it is true. Then again it will go to the print statement. So now j's value is 2. So 0 comma 2, the element will be printed with is nothing but 3. Now again updation part will happen. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So is 3 less than 3? No, it is false. Why? If it is equal to sign present here, then you can say this as a true. But now it is false. So it is as it is false. Now we have to come outside the loop. So now this doesn't get executed. It comes to the outside loop where you have a print statement which specifies a escape sequence character \n. So what does this track? That will bring the compiler, the pointer to the new line. So now new line, it will come to the new line. Okay. Now what happens? It then goes to the updation part of the outer loop. So now I will be updated to 1. So then again test the condition is 1 less than 3. It will become true. So 1 less than 3. So it will become true and it gets into the body of the loop again. So the body we have, what do we have inside the body? We have a inner loop. So again the same process continues. One thing you must remember, it does not continue from 3 and it does not go to 4. What happens here is the entire thing will get destroyed as soon as the loop gets destroyed. Okay, entire thing, this things doesn't happen. it will again initialize. Again you have initialized the value of j with 0 here, right? So again j will be initialized with 0 here. Again the same process continues. So what does this process done? It does printed in the output screen 1, 2 and 3, right? So again the same process continues and 1, 2, 3 will be printed. Will 1, 2, 3 be printed? No, you have to think in this situation. So now i's value is updated here, right? So now I will become 1. So here again it will start from 0. So 1 comma 0th element will be printed. So what happens? 1 comma 0, which is nothing but 4, will be printed. And then 1 comma 1 will be printed. After this condition, everything, after iteration, everything, a 1 comma 1 will be printed, which is 5. 1 comma 6 will be printed. So, 1 comma 2 will be printed, which is 6. Right, now can you understand that why we are using two loops here? So first loop, first time it will be 0 comma 1, 0 comma 2, 0 comma 3 to access the first row. And then we are going to just loop it as 1 comma 1, 1 comma 2 and 1 comma 3 to access the second row. And then 2 comma 1, 2 comma 2, 2 comma 3 to access the third row. So now here you can see this values are same. So because this is outer loop, so outer loop is used to access the row and inner loop is used to access the column. Okay, so this is how the entire thing works. Now again after this a new line will be printed, so it will come to new line and then 7, 8, 9 will be printed. So now we have got the matrix form as our output, right? So now let's test this. So before testing this, I have a question for you. So now you can see that this is the inner for loop, right? Here we have used a parenthesis, a curly braces. So is this curly braces really necessary here? Or we can execute it without this curly braces? Or it will show an error. What will happen? If you think that curly braces is necessary, type S in the comment box. If you think it is not necessary, type no. Let me see. You have to type no, hyphen and your name. Let me see who wins the game. So now let's try executing this code. So now as we expected, we have got the same in the matrix form 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, 8, 9. Wow, superb. So that's all for today. Thank you.